So for our first example problem for the relative motion of two particles, we have here a ball is thrown vertically upward from the 12 meters level in an elevator shaft with an initial velocity of 18 meters per second. And at the same instant, an open platform elevator passes the 5 meters level, moving upward with a constant velocity of 2 meters per second. So what we need to determine are first, when and where the ball will hit the elevator. It means na um, kanusa o unsay final position sa ball o elevator kung asa mag-meet ang duwa. And lastly, we also determine the relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator when the ball hits the elevator. So we have answers here. So for letter A, the time must be 3.65 seconds. And the position is 12.30 meters. And for letter B, the relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator, that is negative 19.81 meters per second. So just a solution here, as you notice in this problem, before we determine the relative velocity, since this is relative motion, we need to determine the time and the final position of the ball that will hit the elevator, or kung asa ang ball and the elevator will meet. So this problem is another example of a free falling body. So therefore, the acceleration is constant. So ang atong gamiton na value here is the value of gravity. So since this is SI unit, we will use 9.81 meters per second squared in our solution. So for letter A, that is when and where the ball will hit the elevator. For this problem, since wala man siya illustration, we need to illustrate the problem based on the given information. So we need to illustrate the motion of the ball and also the open platform elevator and kung asa pod mag-meet ang duwa. So for the ball, it starts, we need to identify the origin. So origin is, it starts from the ground. And this is the um, elevator shaft. So this is the origin and this is the elevator shaft. So ang ball, ang iyang initial position is 12 meters. So that is measured from the origin. And its initial velocity is 18 meters per second. So it is based on the first statement in our problem. And as it goes upward, there is a certain time and position kung asa nag-meet ang ball and the open platform elevator. So we will denote that with SB. So ang SB, mao nang final position sa ball kung asa mag-meet siya with the open platform elevator. The same thing with the elevator. So we have the origin, which is the ground, and the elevator shaft. So based on the second statement, the open platform elevator has a initial position of 5 meters rather. So 5 meters, it measures, it measured from the um, origin. So that is 5 meters. And the velocity, which is constant, that is 2 meters per second. And as it goes upward, kung asa mag-meet siya with the ball, mao na ang final position sa to ang open platform elevator, which we will denote that as SE. So if we combine the two, so pag meet sa duwa or when the ball hit the elevator, so that would be SB and SE. So the final positions of your ball and elevator will be equal. Kay kung mag-meet ang duwa, ang ball and elevator, so ang final position sa imong ball and the elevator must be equal. And for this one, since na naman tayo illustration, we can now identify the equation or pangitawon naton sa equation natong gamiton to solve this problem. Since this is a free-falling body, we need to use the equations na ginagamit nato before if the acceleration is constant. And for this one, since ang variable given are the position and the time, so the equation will be the equation for the position as a function of time, which is S is equal to SO plus VOT plus 1/2 AT squared. So mo na itong gamiton to represent the final position of your ball and your final position sa imong open platform elevator. And also, the same lang gihapon, you need to um, denote the positive sense of your direction. So kung ang imong upward is positive, pag substitute nato diri sa tong equation, kailangan i-consider pod nato ang positive and negative signs. So for the ball, that is SB, equals initial position sa ball that is 12 meters rather, plus initial velocity sa ball that is 18 meters per second. Time is TB plus 1/2. And this is AC. So for the constant acceleration, like what I've said, that is the gravity. And since gravity is always downward man itong gravity. So therefore, ang atong isubstitute diri na value na 9.81 is negative 9.81 meters per second squared and times TB squared. The same thing with the elevator. The same equation, SE, that is your final position of your open platform elevator. Initial position is 5 meters. Initial velocity is 2. TE. And for this one, sa third term, kung asa naa ang puan, constant acceleration, ang imuhang acceleration ana is equal to 0. Why equal to 0? Itungod the acceleration the velocity nato sa to ang open platform elevator is a constant man based sa to ang problem. So therefore, the acceleration for a constant velocity is equal to 0. So therefore, of the equation sa imong final position sa imong elevator would be equal to 5 plus need to pen. Okay. So that is 5 plus 2TE. So nanakay two equations for the ball and elevator. So based on the statement nato na ang final position sa ball is equal to the final position sa imong open platform elevator. So that would be 12 plus 18 TB plus 1 half negative 9.81 TB squared is equal to 5 plus 2 TE. So ang problem na to is ang time, TB and the TE. But since it hit or it will meet, since mag-meet man sila ang ball and elevator, so ang time na to ani, which is the TB and TE are also equal. So ato ang TB is equal to TE kay since it will have the same time kung asa mag-hit ang ball and elevator or mag-meet ang ball and elevator. So we will just denote that with a variable t. So that would be 12 plus 18t plus 1 half negative 9.81 t squared is equal to 5 plus 2t. So we can now solve the time. So you just only combine like terms. So this would be negative 4.905 t squared plus 18t minus 2t plus 12 minus 5 is equal to 0. So negative 4.905 t squared plus 16t plus 7 is equal to 0. As you notice here, this is a quadratic equation. So you can use your calculator to solve the roots of the quadratic equation, or you can use quadratic formula or factoring to solve the roots of your quadratic equation. Para mas dali, you use the calculator. So sa calculator, you just click the mode. Then, ang inyong makita sa on screen is the screen sa calculator is the list. So you just click 5, which refers to the equation. Then afterwards, you click 3, which is for the quadratic equation. So once ma-click nimo ang 3, ma-input nimo ang values sa A, B, and C. So make sure na ang imuhang equation must be in this form. AX squared plus BX plus C is equal to 0. So that is what I did. So ang A nako is negative 4.905, B is 16, and C is 7. So when you input the values sa imong calculator, so the roots sa imong quadratic equation are 3.65 seconds and negative 0.39 seconds. Since duha man ka answer, you need to choose one only, and since time is always positive, so the final answer nato for the time kung asa the ball will meet with the elevator is equal to 3.65 seconds. So this is the time kung asa mag-meet ang ball and the open platform elevator. And once we determine the time, we can now determine the position, the final position of your ball and open platform elevator. So you can choose actually either of the two, which is the 12 plus 18 TB squared plus 1 half negative 9.81 TB squared. And for the final position sa elevator, that is 5 plus 2 TE. So ang final position sa duwa, you just only choose either of the two kay you will have the same answer ramang gihapon when you substitute the time. Kay ang time man nato is equal to the time sa ball and the open platform elevator, which is 3.65 seconds. So if I choose the second one, kay mas dali. So that would be 5 plus 2 times 3.65 seconds. So therefore, the final position of the two, which is SB and SE, since the same naman na sila, is equal to 12.30 meters. So therefore, ang final position sa duwa kung asa mag-meet ang ball and open platform elevator is at the position of 12.30 meters. So that is the final position. And they meet at time kung asa and it will meet at a final time of 3.65 seconds. So that will be your answer for letter A. For letter B is pangitaon nato ang relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator. So for this one, ang equation nato gamiton kay ang relative motion natong gidiscuss sa previous slides. So for the relative velocity, that is VB slash E, first letter is represents the ball and the second letter represents the elevator. Okay, di ba kung relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator, so mas una si ball, then si elevator. It means that unsa ang velocity sa ball if imuhang pag-observe ana kay gikan sa elevator. So that would be equal to the difference of your final position, final velocity sa ball and final velocity sa elevator. So that is VB minus VE. And since this is the final velocity sa ball and open platform elevator, we use the equation gihapon for the acceleration that is constant. So ang gamiton nato here is the equation of velocity as a function of time, which is V is equal to VO plus ACT. So for this one, sa ball, final the final velocity of the ball is VB and the initial velocity of the ball is 18 meters per second. And for the acceleration, that is still negative 9.81 meters per second squared. Take note, don't forget to consider the positive sense. That's why negative ang ato ang gravity here and positive atong initial velocity. And for the time, mo natong gisolve kanina, 3.65. So your final velocity of the ball, kung asa mag-meet ang ball and elevator is at the time na mag-meet ang ball and the elevator is equal to 17.81. So that would be negative 17.81 meters per second. For the elevator, since it is a constant velocity, so therefore, ang iyang final velocity will be equal to 2 meters per second gihapon. Kay if we substitute here sa atong equation, its initial velocity is 2 plus acceleration nato, constant acceleration is equal to 0. So the same na nga itong gibuhat sa equation kanina, if the velocity is constant, so therefore the acceleration is equal to 0. So therefore, its ang final velocity sa atong elevator is still 2 meters per second. So we can now determine the relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator. So that is equal to negative 17.81 minus 2. So that would be negative 19.81 meters per second. So that is your answer for letter B. And why it is a negative? If we go back here in this statement, a negative sign means that it is observed to move in the negative direction. So again, ang time and the position sa ball that will hit the time and the position of the ball and the elevator that will meet are 3.65 seconds and 12.30 meters, and the relative position, relative velocity rather, the relative velocity of the ball with respect to the elevator is equal to negative 19.81 meters per second. So that is how you solve for the relative motion of two particles. So if you notice, we cannot identify, or we cannot proceed on finding the relative velocity without knowing the final time and also the final velocity sa imuhang ball and elevator. So that will be all for the for this example.